this flat, baby.
So we start with a Gamakatsu 90-degree jig hook, and we've attached these are hairline double pupil eyes, which I really like. And these eyes get attached to the hook just in the 90-degree bend. And I always zap-a-gap them just to make sure that they're secured, and just start with some thread. Tie in a marabou tail. Saliva always helps to control marabou. Length, I don't try and measure the length, I just wing it, eyeball it. Now we're going to add Flashabou tail. So we're going to take a pretty healthy chunk of Flashabou. This is copper, which is a color I started using, and it's an extremely effective color. And again, a little saliva helps to control it. And the idea here is you want one side on one side of the tail, and then the other side is going to go on the other. And I like to trim it off a little bit longer than the tail, not much. So there's the first part. Again, if you wet it down, it'll stay out of the way of what comes next, which is EP Andromedus brush. And I much prefer this to the original EP brush. The fibers are a lot finer, and they definitely flow a lot better in the water. So we just tie that in and secure it with some wraps, and we're going to go about that far up for the body. And so this just wraps, and you want to stroke the fibers back with each wrap. So basically we want to end so we've got enough room for the Arctic fox collar. Trim that. Put a couple of half inches on it just for security. And then with the bodkin, you can just go back in and pick all this stuff out. And that assures that it's all gonna flow with the current. And now we're ready for our second set of Flashabou wings, which are going to be top and bottom. Oh, and you want the bottom wing to be a little bit longer than the top wing, because the bottom wing is going to go over the front of the eyes and back around, so you want a little bit more material to make sure that the wing comes out the right length. So we just secure that and wrap back. Wrap back to the eyes. And now I can trim this, and we want the top and bottom wing to be roughly the same length as the side wings we put on either side of the tail. And then the bottom wing is going to wrap around the front of the eyes. to the tie-in point. And another couple half hitches to secure that. Flip this over, just so we make sure that we trim that to the right length. And we're done with Flashabou. Now, especially this bottom wing, you want to try and get that out of the way because the Arctic fox is going to go into a dubbing loop. And dubbing loop tool, a bit of wax, pre-cut a piece of Arctic fox that's going to slide in the dubbing loop. So we just position that, and I'm going to trim off the leather. And now I like to hold my fingers here while we spin, otherwise this bottom part will tend to wrap around the thread. So just start spinning, and it helps a whole lot to go back in at this point with the bodkin and just kind of pick these fibers out as best you can. And then with the hackle pliers, you can just wrap it like this, but I find it easier to grab the thread with the hackle pliers. And now this initial wrap is important to keep all that Flashabou in back of it. Originally, these top and bottom Flashabou wings, as you fished it, tended to foul around the front of the fly. So I added this step to keep everything flowing in back of the fly, and so the Flashabou is prevented from fouling around the front. But you can kind of see how this is starting to develop into a fly with a lot of motion. Another couple of half hitches in here. And then go back in with the bodkin just to make sure that all of this stuff is free and not trapped. So again, the whole idea is as you strip, all of this material is going to lay back, and as you pause, it'll all flare out. So you've got this constant, as you strip and pause, it lays back, opens up, lays back, opens up. Fish love it. And final step is to add a final collar of guinea. You'll see most people take the tip and strip the fibers back and tie it in by the tip, and I like to do it just the opposite. Take our hackle pliers and just start wrapping, and it helps to kind of stroke these back as you wrap too, again, so they don't all get trapped. And it looks like we'll be able to get one more turn. Trim. And again, you want to go back in and pick out these fibers, make sure that they're all nice and even. Fish probably don't care one bit, but I like to make it look pretty. Whip finish. And I do not have head cement with me, but the last step, if I did, would be to throw some head cement on and done.